I wanted, first of all, I can't tell you, as you get older and you start looking at everything, you kind of, things become a little different to you. And I can't tell you how every day I feel totally blessed to have all of you guys around. I think everybody in our family is, I wouldn't change a thing. I feel very, very blessed from it. But I kind of wanted to, some of you've heard it, but I kind of wanted to tell you a little bit of a story because I think it's interesting how fragile life is and how things come together that you wouldn't ever plan or expect them to be. Those days, we'd never been out to West Texas, and I had no idea what it was like at Texas Tech. And so I went with a group of guys, and we said, well, George and I are enrolled at A&M. We're going to A&M. And all the guys said, oh, you're a bunch of idiots. Said, A&M's a bunch of guys. There's no women there. And they said, I said, well, where would be an alternative? And they said, well, Texas Tech. And so anyway, we got in the car and we drove out there. And we were just overwhelmed with the campus. We couldn't believe it. I thought it was going to be Adobe buildings. But I was in a fraternity, and I had a fraternity brother that came up to me. This was in 1962. And he says, I've got a girlfriend, and she's got a friend coming into town. Would you go out with us where we have a foursome and they want to do something? And I said, sure. And so it was a few weeks off, and so we went out, and we got in early because the girls had been pretty well up overnight, all night, the night before. And so we took them back to the dorm early. So I left there, and I thought, well, that's the end of the night, and I drove off. And I got a block or two away, and I had somebody behind me with the lights flashing and honking, and I went back there, and it was a guy that was in our fraternity named Skip Gillum. And Skip said, I'm taking my date back. He was pretty well engaged to this girl, and he said, I just wondered if you're hungry, if you want to go out and get something to eat. So I said, well, yeah. And he said, well, come on back to the dorm with us. So I went back to the dorm. And when I did, I walked in, and I saw a girl named Linda Collard. And I had just met her at a dance a few days before, and she was with one of my fraternity brothers, and so we struck up a conversation. And as things went on, we talked about all that was going on, and we had a really good pledge class in our fraternity. And so she was a freshman, and she said, I'd like for you to set me up with one of your pledges, just kind of joking around. And I said, yeah, I'll be glad to. And I said, but you need to set me up with your little friend here. And your little friend was Mama. and what she doesn't remember, but I remember, is that when I said, set me up with your little friend, I remember her going, she doesn't remember that, but I remember that.
Well, what I remember is that I didn't date unknown boys. I'd never met him. I didn't know who he was or the first thing about him. Didn't know he was in a fraternity. Couldn't care less. But I didn't date boys I didn't know.
That's fair.
That was the end of it. So no.
It could be a serial killer.
Yeah. So anyway, talked a little bit and finally decided, I think under duress, that she was going to meet me in the student union and we'd have what we call a coat date. And so we met in the student union. She was a bridge player, played bridge all the time over there. And so we met in the student union and had the coat date. And when it was over with, I can remember walking back up. She was going to walk off to go to class or something. And as she turned around and walked off, I had this feeling all over. And it said, you will always be with this person. And I thought, that's kind of freaky. Because I didn't know her that well either. I mean, we just met. That was the end of it. But one thing after another. And so 2 years later is when we got married. And so different events have taken place in our life over the last 54 years. I just wanted to express how much I love you and how much Mama and I feel good about everybody. And I wouldn't change a thing.
Love you.
Thank you.
Love you guys too.
I feel really blessed that I met this lady because she's been incredible. And she is incredible, and y'all are very lucky to have her as a mother and a grandmother.
Well, it's been my pleasure too. What an adventure.
Yeah.
You're young and starting on new adventures, and I've expressed that to some of you, but life is an adventure. You'll meet your man or your lady and start your adventure, and you'll have this someday. Hopefully you will. one step at a time. We didn't know some of you would be here. We didn't know who would be here. You know, it's just one step at a time.
Take somebody to the dorm, go off, and a fraternity brother signals me down and says, why don't you go back to the dorm with me? What are the odds of that happening?
Yeah.
You know, actually going back, and it all lines up. That's right. The heavens lined up.